I do a lot of gigs where I have to supply the sound system. And sometimes when I'm supplying sound, I will use my QSC KS118s, and sometimes I will use Matt's RCF 8008s. One of the most common questions I get in my gig videos is, which one of those do I actually prefer using? So let's get into it. Comparing the two, there is one obvious difference. The KS118, from here on we will be calling the QSC, is a single 18-inch subwoofer, where the RCF 8008, which from here on out we're going to call the RCF, is a dual 18 in a single enclosure. When I bought my sound rig, it was for when I was in a band and we were playing in small bars. So I only needed really 2 subs. You're not going to need a ton of power inside of a small bar. But later we started doing street dances and I needed some more power. Then I was left with a choice: sell my 2 singles and lose money on them, or buy 2 more to add more power, and so I bought 2 more. Fast forward and I began working with Matt, and he had an RCF system, and he was using the dual 18s. At first, I thought this wasn't a great idea because it does limit your layout options. That thought was not completely wrong, but it's also not completely right. Every gig that I did over this entire summer, I ended up needing my extra subs. And for each one of those gigs, I was loading all my subwoofers to take them. And the thing you're going to notice right away is it is a lot more effort to load up 4 subs, set up 4 subs, unload them, load them back in. It's just a lot of manual labor that you can skip out on if you only have 2 subs per side because they're dual 18s. Not only is there the physical labor of rolling them in and out, but just hooking them up. You need more XLR cables. You're going to need 4 instead of 2. You're going to need more power cables. Unless you have some sort of fancy splitter, you're going to need 4 power cables for each one instead of 2. So all your work is doubled. While that doesn't seem like a big deal, after you've set up for a gig a few hundred times, you're going to want to shave off every minute that you can. And by rolling out just 2 subwoofers and using less cables to hook up, you're easily going to save 15 to 20 minutes just right there. Let's talk about the SPL now. The SPL in the manual on the RCF is 137 decibels. The SPL on the QSC is 136. When you put 2 QSCs together, you do gain about 3 to 6 dB in actual output. So we're just going to call this a draw. On to frequency response. The RCF can go down to 30 Hertz and all the way up to 120. The QSC can go down to 41 Hertz and go up to 98 Hertz. On paper, that sounds like the RCF wins, but it really comes down to what you're doing. If you're mixing for a rock band, for instance, you're going to be setting your crossovers at probably 100, and you're not going to really need to go down to 30 for a rock band, because you're really just going to be running that kick. Now, as far as wattage, the RCF has 4,400 watts peak. The QSC has 3,600 watts at peak. Now on to the weight. The RCF weighs 176 pounds, and for reference, I weigh 145 pounds. So moving that is a bit cumbersome and can be a challenge, where the QSC weighs just over 100 pounds. But the difference here that you have to think about is for each RCF, I have to have 2 QSCs. So really, I have 200 pounds versus 176 pounds. It's kind of interesting when you think about it that way. Part of that extra weight is going to be the casters on the QSC, which do not come on the RCF, which is kind of a double-edged sword. The casters are great for moving, but when you set the subs down and they're sticking up on the back, they will, even though they're designed not to, will rattle occasionally. Now price. The RCF is $3,999 at the time of shooting this video. The QSC is $2,499. This is much like the weight, because if you do the math, you're going to need 2 of the QSCs to equal the 1 RCF. So now you are looking at almost $5,000. That puts the QSC setup at $1,000 more than the RCF setup for just the 2 subs. Now you take that times the other side for the other 2, and you're looking at $2,000 more just to have easier options. Now let's talk about the sound. I'm gonna give you a couple clips from a show with the RCF. Here's a couple clips from a show that I did with the QSC. Now, one caveat. Obviously, this was recorded with a camera. Audio is not going to be perfect, but I can tell you at the actual location, in the environment, the QSC can absolutely hit really, really hard. But every time I hear the RCF, I can't help but smile. It just sounds so clear and so tight. Now, originally part of this I thought could be because of Matt's mix versus my mix, but I've done a lot of shows with those with my mixer. So it was my mix in both cases. And I can tell you from experience, I feel like the RCF is just a tighter, more responsive hit. All right, big reveal. If I was to choose just one right now to buy, what would I choose? Well, if it was mid-season and you'd ask me, I would say the RCF all day long. I love the way it sounds. It saves me time setting up. But then I did a gig indoors, and I needed just one sub per side. Yes, you could roll in with a dual sub on each side, but it would take up more space. I would have to run them lower, and it just looks nicer with one sub per side. In reality, you kind of want both. Now, I know this is a completely wishy-washy review, but really, you need subs for each job. If you're doing a ton of outdoor jobs and you're not doing a lot of indoor small gigs, you can totally get away with the dual 18, and the RCF is going to make you very happy. They are bomb-proof and they sound great. But if you just need that single sub or two subs, and you don't want to use a dual sub because what are you going to do? Center that one dual sub? That doesn't make any sense. It's going to block the band half the time. Then you're going to want to go with a single sub per side, and you'll be extremely happy with the QSC sub. It hits hard and it sounds really good, and I feel like it punches way above the weight of a lot of single 18-inch subs. And now I have a question for you watching. I know a lot of you out there are sound engineers yourself or aspiring sound engineers. What do you prefer? Do you prefer to have single 18s so you have more layout options? Or do you like the ease of using a dual 18-inch instead? I'm really curious. But I do think in the next coming season, I'm definitely going to probably sell off. Definitely, probably. Oh, what an idiot. I'm going to probably sell off 2 of my 18s, keep 2 of them so that I have a wide variety of what I can do. But then I'll probably pick up 2 of the RCF dual 18s or an equivalent. Thank you so much for joining me in this video, and I will see you at the next gig.